Hey, hi everyone. Welcome back to Show Sunday. Today we watched the extremely happy anime Bokurano, and that is a bold-faced lie.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the opposite of Hamtaro.
Yeah, it kind of really is. Okay, so this anime is kind of interesting where you get the premise the first episode, but if you don't understand the premise, the rest of it is it's sort of spoiled, but it's not really, depending on how you talk about it. But
I I would say to me, like, if you, okay, because I didn't know anything going into this. Tara, did you know anything going into this?
I knew. I
Okay.
tried watching it before, but I'll talk about that later.
Okay. So I didn't know anything, and I would say if you don't know anything, watch the first two episodes
Mm.
and have
yeah,
that be basically your judgment of if you want to keep going and if you can kind of see where this is going. Because yeah, the
yeah,
first
Yeah.
episode sort of gets like the main point, but then the second episode gets to like the next point.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
the first, your main point, you're like, okay, I get it. And then and then the second episode happens, and you're like, oh,
I get
okay.
it even more.
It's like, oh no.
Yeah. So I think the second episode is the best kind of point of being like, sort of the judgment of how far you of the episode. Because if you just watch the first episode and you're kind of like, okay, I mean, I guess, but it seems what's so special about this, then like I can understand
Mhm.
that. But yeah, the
Yeah.
second episode is when it's kind of like, oh, wait a minute. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
this is very much a show where I have to say you must exercise your own discretion because there is a lot of content that is a little bit disturbing or
Yeah.
mature. So I would say that if you are young for some reason watching these like show Sundays and movie Mondays we do, I would exercise your own discretion as you go because it does get quite dark. And the first, we get front loaded with some of the garbage human characters a little bit. So,
Mm,
um, yeah, that I guess is kind of how it weeds out people
yeah.
who may not want to continue.
I was even given again once episode two happens and you're like, oh, okay, they're going this far. They're going this far. I was still surprised about like where they were going in like episodes like five and six with the characterization.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
like, okay, well,
I
this
will
is
say,
uncomfortable.
I will say this is kind of the end of the worst characters, like of the children. After this, it gets they weeded out the bad ones. It's just that the first pilot was unfortunately just, okay, but he had to be the guinea pig.
Mm,
But,
yeah,
the second two pilots are awful. Everyone else is fine. I forgot that we spent a lot of time with some of these other characters, and then I was like, oh yeah, okay. It's after this point where it starts to get a little bit more towards the direction of like if you get invested, you may become emotional at certain points.
mm,
So yeah, so I don't really know how we can talk about this because I have a very deep history with this anime, but most people don't because it's often passed over, probably because it's like it looks kind of funny or it's like a little bit of a weird premise or like people just think it's like some mech anime. So I
mhm.
find it really hard to find people who have watched it. And
Yeah. Again, that's why I would say,
yeah,
like, if you're coming to this again, like me, you didn't know anything, I would say, again, watch the first two episodes and then
yeah.
make your
Yeah.
judgment
Use
from there.
that as your litmus test
Yeah.
because I understand why maybe it's not as popular as say like Evangelion. It's much darker, I think. So
I mean,
yeah.
I think, let me put it this way. Already, I am way more interested in this than I was after watching all of Evangelion, so I,
Okay, so I might have someone to actually talk about this anime with if you continue.
I,
So
yeah, the only thing that's annoying for me is that there's no dub at all. That's
yeah, I'm
so,
really sorry. It's because it wasn't very popular, and I think that's why no one picked it up.
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
this could have been okay as a dub because there are
Mhm.
so many principal characters, so it would have helped. But as time goes on, you do kind of get a better sense of who the quote unquote more main characters are.
Yeah, because this was like what, like mid 2000s?
Yeah.
2007.
Yeah, so there's because this is late enough where like the dub probably wouldn't have been horrible, right?
Yeah.
So
It would have, yeah, because like Death Note dub had already come out. That was a good dub. So
yeah,
it would have had a good shot of being a decent one. It's just they needed a
just
larger.
needed more popular. Yeah, that's unfortunate. So, and again, that's just a personal thing because of my vision, it's kind of hard with the subs. But
Yeah.
even with that, I was definitely invested in what was going to happen with everything. So yeah, I guess in terms of non-spoilers, I would just say go watch the first 2 episodes and see what you think, and then come back to us, I guess, from after you've seen the first 6. Yeah. Where do we begin?
Spoilers for sure.
Jeez. Yeah. So my hint when I kind of started picking up on like that there's something a little more to this was not the very end of episode 2. I mean, that was definitely the big kind of like obvious thing, but during that sort of fight that was happening in episode 2, I'm like, they're showing a lot of like destruction and like people like basically getting like fucked up from like what's going on in this fight, way more than most of these kinds of shows would show.
Yeah.
And so that clued me in as like, okay. And then again, when you saw the actual like, Waku dying, and then especially the fallout of that, mostly in episode 3, it's just like, okay, I see what angle this is taking it. And it's weird because it's like, this is a really weird way of putting it, but I can't really think of another word, is that it's a realistic angle.
Kind of.
In terms of like how a society and how like
how a society responds to this kind of
that, and also the characters who are just, again, random kids who don't know what the fuck they're doing. It's like, it kind of makes sense.
Not like, because they're about as old as Hero was in Gundam Wing, so.
And none of them are competent. It's just that the robot is like super sentient in like with the pilot. And something I really like about this anime is that all of the ensemble is very diverse in terms of like their background, because you saw like Waku, he's a normal guy. He did soccer and was like kind of upset by his father not being there at a soccer game. Then you have Masaru, who was like kind of a sociopath.
Basically like fucking Hitler Youth or whatever.
He's like Baby Bundy. And then you have Isao, who is garbage and deserved to die the way he did. Actually, in the manga, I can tell you what happens to him because Chizuru actually slits his throat.
Okay.
So, yeah, they censored that for the anime. The anime and the manga have a lot of differences, but I can't actually talk about too many of them because a lot of them have to do with the ending.
Which came out first?
I think the manga came out first, but I will say, in general, the anime is a little bit more hopeful. You will have to just believe me on that, at least when we get to the end.
That's kind of sad.
The ending of both Bokurano versions is quite sad, but I think the anime is a bit more hopeful, and I personally prefer the anime. Even though I think the manga is very well done, it's just that it is more nihilistic, and if you're not really into that, I would take the anime over the manga. That's just my recommendation. So I was like, the first 2 episodes, I was like looking at some of the character interactions and what people were saying, and I remembered their arcs, and I got a little bit emotional at some of them because I like a fair amount of the remaining ones after Isao fucking dies.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting because like coming into the end of episode 2, I was like, oh, okay, there's this ensemble. But usually how this stuff works is there's the ensemble cast, but there's like a main character of the ensemble, or maybe there's like 2 or 3 main characters of the ensemble. And so I was like, oh, okay, Waku's the main character, because that's kind of how they were presenting him, and then he's dead, so it's like, oh, okay.
Okay, you fell for the bait then. Okay. I know that's how they purposely set it up. They wanted Waku to come off as like the perfect main character for this kind of anime.
Mm-hmm.
And then he dies at the end of episode 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just really liked that when I first watched it, because I think at the time I didn't watch like a whole ton of anime, but I thought that was kind of an interesting take on it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
that was interesting.
I forgot how disturbing some of the children were.
yeah. I mean, again, this is one of those. It's obviously like there's more going on, right, that we don't know about yet. Presumably, okay. Here's you want the. Well, wait, Tara, how much do you know? How much have you seen?
Well, I did what? Okay, so if we're going, are we going to talk about backgrounds and stuff?
I guess we could do that, but Valen has no background.
Yeah. Because that's I'm just curious before I say something.
You can say your bit first, and then
I was basically gonna give like a. If you forced me to like predict something about the show, what I would say.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I'm thinking like my guess is that like all these like other robot things that they're fighting are basically just like another group of kids in the same situation. And it's somehow a thing where it's like it's something that powers that be whatever is trying to like weed out like who is the best or something, and like for some reason it's not. And this whole existential threat to Earth is either just wrong, or I guess just a lie, or it's like technically true, but not in any way that it seems like it is right now. That's my guess.
I can't say anything.
Obviously,
so.
Yeah.
I think that would. I mean, I think that would make sense. I didn't finish watching it when I guess so. My introduced me to this, I think, back in high school.
That's when I first watched it. Yeah. So probably.
I gave it a shot. I tried it, but I didn't get into it. And at the time, I think I only got up to episode 2 and stuff. But I didn't really get into it, I think, because I didn't really get invested with a lot of the characters. I understand that you would get more invested as time goes on, but none of them really stuck with me. And the premise seemed like didn't really catch on with me and stuff like that. Upon the second watching, I think I have deduced maybe why it didn't latch on to me and stuff, which is that this actually reminds me a lot about a lot of Madoka.
Oh, okay, I see.
So, and
I can see that actually.
Yeah, because I was like, wait, this is basically, which also explains why it, like, you like it a fair amount too. Which is basically like, it's powered by life force energy, and if your theory is correct, then that also kind of goes into the Madoka similarities too, with the whole witches thing and stuff. Of which I didn't really enjoy Madoka as much, so coming into this, I was like, it was more so me kind of affirming. I was like, oh, this is probably why I'm not really getting into this, because I didn't really get into Madoka, and even with the second viewing, I didn't really get into this as much either. But I can understand that I am the outsider in this situation.
I think maybe you're part of actually the majority. Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult to find anything like related to consuming this particular anime, because I think it just turns off a lot of people because of how heavy it can be. So I have been on this crusade to get at least one person to watch it all the way through. Maybe I will finally succeed with Colin.
I'm tempted for sure.
Talk about with their background though.
Yeah, this has been a lifelong crusade at this point. So I watched. So my first introduction was actually the opening song, This was back when YouTube was kind of like still new. It was like 2010 or 2011 or 2012. I don't fucking remember. But I got really into the opening, so I was like, okay, what's the anime for this? And then I was like, okay, what the hell is this? No one talks about it, but I guess I'll watch it because the same thing had happened to me with Higurashi. So Higurashi I really loved. So I thought, okay, this will probably be the same way. And yeah, it was pretty much the same way. I think it took me a while to get to the manga because the anime is so painful. And I read the manga in college. And when I finished it, I was like, okay, I know that there's kind of like two camps of like, there's the people who like the anime a little bit more and the people who like the manga a little bit more because they do substantively differ in significant ways after a certain point. So I kind of fell into I prefer the anime a little bit more because it is a bit more hopeful, although there are some balances and nuances in the manga that are more interesting. But yeah, this is one of those shows that I feel like the things that I really, really like, I don't revisit as much as I would like to, unless it's like a video game. I think it's just hard for me to find the time to sit down, commit, and like be able to swallow the emotional investment afterward because the thing that happens to me is that I get really like invested into something and then I cannot stop thinking about it for however long. So yeah, that's why I think it took me this long to rewatch the first 6 episodes and um kind of remember why I liked it so much, even though like yeah, the art is kind of weird and I think overall it was like a quote unquote lower budget anime, so which is probably
Yeah,
why no
like
one
the animation's not like amazing, but I don't think it's
cared for
like
it.
bad. I've definitely seen like a lot worse in terms of certain like
Yeah,
Yeah,
reviews and
definitely.
stuff.
I've seen worse, but
Yes.
it's not like a Studio Gainax thing or a
No,
Studio Bones production.
it
It's like
it
Well,
it's
I have
it
the
no
other
works. I
idea.
thing
think.
too is that those companies weren't really big things back then.
Yeah, that's true. So
Hmm.
Because that was like 10 years ago or so too. So I think it's probably also because it touches on, like you said, more
more dark topics.
that you wouldn't really expect from when you get like an ensemble of like middle school characters
Yeah, that's
per
true.
se. So yeah, I wouldn't, because yeah, I would say the art style is not like
I like it. I just don't think it appeals to other people so much.
I don't think there's definitely been worse.
Yeah.
And they do a good job in terms of like you can tell that the robots and stuff are like 3D
Yeah, they're
models.
Yeah.
But the 3D models do look like when they're moving around and stuff, even though you can tell that it's a little bit different from the drawn stuff, it still like coordinates well.
yeah, it's not as bad as when I watched Fate Stay Night, the original one.
Or
It
when
was
you
so
guys
bad.
watched the what was it, the Amazing Bulk?
It was the amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely not that bad. Yeah, I mean, also what I've noticed is that like the character designs are like kind of simple,
Yeah,
but I think that kind of helps because it's
because
like
they're supposed to be ordinary people.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah. Um yeah. So I don't know. Like I do want to go more into this myself.
Okay, so
Um
we can talk about this one day, and I will finally have someone to talk about
yeah.
it.
I'm not sure when or how. To be fair, it is like you said, it's 24 episodes, so it's not very
24
long.
episodes. Yeah.
So that wouldn't be a huge time commitment. Um I mean, I could just like start doing it now, but I don't know. We'll see. No promises. But I'm definitely curious to go more into this, at least myself. So
I might try to finish it at some point, but that'll also be just a huge emotional investment because I know some of the episodes destroyed me, and I don't know if I'm ready for that right now, especially since I'm still trying to get my life together. So when I have some more time, I will be emotionally destroyed.
Well,
I already gave my opinion.
yeah. Anything else for anyone to mention?
I don't really think so. It's really hard to talk about this when it's kind of like hard to talk about something when it's like one person knows the whole thing and then everyone else doesn't really. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not like a movie where
Yeah.
we've seen the whole movie, so it's okay. It's like easy to talk about it from start to finish. It's kind
Yeah.
of like I the entire picture, but you don't at the moment. So I can't talk about some of the more interesting things that get revealed later.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, should we move to the
Spin the
wheel?
wheel.
I guess let's spin the wheel.
Okay.
Oh yeah, so I guess now you know why I was like, hey, Arrival has like a similar introduction thing where the thing just appears. That kind of happens here too.
I guess it's not the way that
Yeah.
I was thinking of it, but okay. Yeah, I will say, well, okay. For one, uh, there's not going to be a movie Monday next week, due to stuff happening. So this will be whatever we roll here is going to be in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So there's that. Oh, and also the thing that we random to replace Arrival ended up actually being Beauty and the Beast.
The original
So
one.
The original one.
yeah, the good one. So it'll be nice to finally watch that because I've actually never watched it before.
So now you have to compare it to the live action version.
that'll be-
Yeah, I mean it's more so I'm going to be comparing it to Kingdom Hearts, but like whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, so in 2 weeks' time, we shall be watching
Oh,
Oh,
a Tara
okay.
pick.
interesting.
The Secret of Nim.
Alan, have you watched this before? I know mine's never watched it.
I have not watched it. I know a little bit about it, but I don't know the story. I just kind of know
It's
the
about
context
mice.
a little bit. Yeah, I know a little bit more than that, but not much.
Okay, so my background with this is that this movie confused the heck out of me as a child.
Okay.
So, probably because I feel like this is a movie that you wouldn't really like the commercial breaks actually distract you from what's going on.
Okay, so watching it in one sitting is
And
maybe beneficial.
yeah, I also feel like that I maybe had a lot of bad luck with it because coincidentally, every time this movie was on, there were thunderstorms. And what was the thing with thunderstorms back in like the early 2000s?
Blackouts.
You would get blackouts, or the TV signal wouldn't work because everyone had satellite. So, I kind of just wanted to revisit this movie because I know that a lot of people have mentioned that it's a really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, well, maybe as an adult I'll actually understand.
As an adult with an actual ability to watch it all in full without interruptions, then maybe you'll appreciate it as much as everyone
exactly.
else. That's totally fair.
You know what'd be funny? Like, if it's even more confusing somehow now. I don't know.
Oh boy.
Can you imagine?
Oh my God.
I do remember the animation was really interesting and it's dark. Not, I guess tone-wise it's dark too, but
like visually
it's kind of dark too.
Isn't this also like late 80s, early 90s?
Yeah,
I think.
it's a John
Let me look it up.
movie.
Yeah,
right?
it's the same one. It's the same guy who did American Tail.
Oh wow, 1982. Okay, earlier than I thought it was.
Oh, okay, really early.
Oh, John.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, the owl. I didn't. Owls. Yeah, the owl's there too.
Yeah.
The owl is there too.
The owl is there. Okay, but yeah, no, this okay. This is a movie that's always it's been in the back of my head of like you should watch this at some point. So well, here we are.
Yeah. So, yeah, we go from Bokurano to
Mice.
mice.
It's one of
it might still carry the dark tone, maybe not the exact dark tone in terms of like, you know, children getting their life forces taken out and like other really messed up stuff. But yeah, so we're watching Secret of Nim.
This will be
All right.
interesting
Yeah.
too.
Okay. And so yeah, 2 weeks will be Secret of Nim. Yeah. There should be I know there wasn't a D&D thing posted this week, but last week, but there should be one this week. There was scheduling stuff with the group for that on my end. So yeah, you won't have a movie Monday next week, but you should at least have D&D. So there's that. My campaign is close to the end. We're not at the end, but maybe in like a month or so we'll be done. So it's pretty close. So I'm excited for that. But anyway, yeah, woohoo.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Bye, guys.
Goodbye.
Let's discover the secret of Nim together.
The secret was friendships we made along the way.
I don't know that. I don't think they're. I think it more so focuses on family, actually.
Mice.
Friendship.
Is magic?
No.
Mice.
Recording's over.